Hey YouTube, I'm Mr. Terry, a high school history teacher, and today I'm doing something kind of different, I guess kind of special. This month marks my 2-year anniversary here on YouTube. And 2 years ago, I had no idea that a channel I originally made to post my lessons and review videos for my class would turn into what it has now. And what kind of kicked things off, I guess, was me deciding to do reaction videos from the perspective of a history teacher. And what we're doing today to kind of celebrate this, and this was really kind of brought to me by members of our community, is doing a reaction video to my first video, which was also a reaction video. Fair enough. Now, this video that we're going to be watching is Oversimplified. Oversimplified is the channel that has had my most popular reactions and in a way kind of built off that, at least far as the content outside of my lesson content on the channel. And you know, deservedly so. But I had no idea people would be that interested in watching me talk about these videos. So the first video I ever did a reaction video to was Oversimplified World War II. So I did this again way back 2 years ago. It was in June of 2019. Now looking at this right now, today again, now it's June 2021. This video has 2.4 million views on it. And it's so crazy because it is, I know, I haven't really watched it since then. It's going to be cringy. I did not know what I was doing with like editing and all that stuff. It's going to be bad, but this was requested to me and I thought, I guess we would do this. So I don't know if it's going to be me like just reacting to the oversimplified content as much as it is just to me responding to it, because I put my reaction into the video anyways. So I don't know, maybe this is a dumb idea to do this, but nevertheless, maybe it's a fun thing to do to mark our 2-year anniversary over here. All right, you guys, there are some links down below to some stuff if you want to be a little bit more into our community. I have a couple gaming channels. I have one on YouTube, Mr. Terry Gaming, and then over on Twitch, Mr. Terry History is that one. A very active Discord server and a bunch of other fun stuff that you can interact with because I want you to be part of the community. But again, thank you for 2 years of you guys just viewing my silly stuff here on YouTube, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you for just being here in any capacity. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so to complete the experience here, I went and put on the clothes that I was wearing in that first video. I think it was just this Under Armour shirt and, of course, the famous hat I got here. Now, I have moved since then. I don't live, and people have asked me about the game room and all that stuff. I have all that stuff, but it still hasn't been unpacked in my new place yet, and it's going to be in a different room. So hopefully you guys have liked the aesthetic of the arcades and this kind of office game room. But I know some of you really appreciate the old retro game collection. Hey YouTube, This is Mr. Terry. Today we're checking out Oversimplified's World War II video, part 1. So we're going to check this out. Of course, World War II is probably the most popular war that people know. Oh my God. World War II is the most popular war. I bet when you guys first watch this, you're like, this guy isn't a teacher. I promise you I am. I've been teaching for 10 years. And so, okay. All right. The cringe is going to be a lot. But even as no real intro, I didn't know what I was doing. Love doing that because it's such, really a big part of history. So let's go ahead and check this out right now. Dude, if you've been with me since the start, thank you.
A young man by the name of
I don't know why you would do this.
moves from Italy to Switzerland to avoid military service. He gets big into socialism.
I'm going to turn the original video down a bit.
Newspapers advocating a violent overthrow of
Look at this.
the whole shebang.
I didn't know how to do like the image, like my picture on stuff.
Back to Italy,
so
returns to Switzerland, is arrested
like,
again, goes back to Italy
I'm blocking
again,
part of the screen.
People are always previously avoiding it, and then after a brief stint as an elementary school teacher, he finally returns to work as an avid socialist.
Apparently, I have the closed captions on. That's actually not a bad. I should do that anyways.
Italian socialists. He was anti-war, so when Italy colonized Libya in 1940,
by the way,
he rioted and got arrested.
By the way, you might be wondering, because a lot of you guys know I wore glasses at the beginning of like my first few channels, and that is true. It was about a month and a half after probably this video that I got LASIK surgery. I also was heavier then. It was the heaviest I had ever been in my life. And it's interesting, if you guys want, you can do this sometime. Go look at my thumbnails from this video for 2 years and look at them. And you're going to see me transform. It's going to be interesting. You're going to see me really, fat-faced and stuff, and then get real skinny. And then probably about late summer, a little less than a year, you're going to see me come back out again because I've put on some weight. Kind of interesting. But if I remember right, the reason I'm not wearing my glasses in this video is I would wear the glasses and then I think I was self-conscious in them a little too, but they would have these huge glares from the screen. So I was doing this without my glasses, I guess.
Arrested.
But other videos you will see me with.
And once again, he protested Italy's involvement. But then he thought, wait a minute, this war could bring about the social climate needed to overthrow European monarchies and bring about the socialist revolution everywhere.
So we all know who Mussolini is going to become later. And a lot of us know about Hitler, and they're going to talk about him, I'm sure, here soon. But it's amazing what World War II taught us about what war does to potentially change people. I mean, you have Benito Mussolini, he's an anti-war activist. And of course, we know the dictator that he's going to become. But it's, again, truly amazing. This is what you guys do when you watch my videos. Do to people, and totally change their outlook on a lot of things. So, of course, we want to find out with people like Hitler and Mussolini, what is it about war or whatever that is going to change them into the people they are going to become after? Because they're obviously going to be very different people. So, hopefully they get into that.
And suddenly he was pro-war, but his
I would say the same thing
didn't
still.
like his new pro-war stance, so they kicked
They
him
were
out of
both
the party.
not into war,
said,
especially Mussolini.
I'm done with socialism.
Becomes very
We need
into war.
Something new, not based on class divisions tearing us apart, but based on unity through nationality. We'll conquer the Mediterranean and reunite all Italian peoples, just like the days of the Roman Empire. I'll call it fascismo, and it will guide the Italian nation to greatness. That's all well and good, Mr. Mussolini, but what kind of haircut am I giving you? Let's go with bold.
I remember this part. I don't know if you could see it. Maybe my hairline is also going. I know it's getting further back, but here we go. Whatever.
Italy had been on the
So, I mean, I'm not really talking. I'm kind of talking. I gave my points. One thing I did do pretty good, because I was really bad at the beginning of this, which was audio levels. I was changing. I never really did it. I actually did a pretty good job here. Right after this, I'm pretty sure I changed the whole like picture-in-picture thing. And did it where the video was smaller, and then I was, like how I'm doing it right now. But people immediately were like, really? But again, thank you so much for standing with me. This is such a low-budget thing. I can't believe this thing became popular. I mean, obviously, I'm a product of the YouTube algorithm.
And they hoped they were going to get a lot out of it. But in the end, they only got a little, and they felt cheated. On top of that, a bad economy and weak governments meant that the Italian people were a little unhappy. So when Mussolini came
I've hardly seen this original video
his
since
fascist movement gained a lot of support.
In
1922, he went to the king and said, make
cool.
me prime minister or I'll make me prime minister. And the king said, you and what army?
I miss my retro game room. I'll get it set up again
enough.
someday.
Then he went about establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had its first fascist dictator. Next up, Germany. Germany had been on the loser's side, and they got absolutely wrecked by the Treaty of Versailles. They lost territory, had to demilitarize the homeland, had to reduce their army to just 100.
Yes. This happened a bunch of times. Okay, this is not your screen, by the way, and it's not mine right now. The virus protector thing. I hate these things. Look at this. Windows Defender Antivirus did not find any threats since your last summary. Your device was scanned one time. Then why are you telling me this? Tell me if there is a virus. Don't tell me when there's not, when I didn't automatically run the thing. But these were always funny. These caused me anxiety when I was doing the video, because I'm like, oh my god, they're not going to like it. They're not going to like the video, and what I'm going to have to do is like redo the video.
100,000 men.
Let's see if I get rid of it.
Had to pay the Allies a huge amount of money that it didn't have, and a new rule was established that every Englishman withheld the right to walk into the center of Berlin, pick out any German they wanted, and spank the hell out of them. I made that last one up, but it helps you understand how all of this felt to Germans.
Okay, so what, Mr. Terry? Treaty of Versailles, right? Yep. If you know about World War II, you understand that
I do.
there were so many leftover problems that the Treaty of Versailles created that ended World War One.
True.
And what you saw here, which is important to understand, is Italy was on the winning side and Germany was on the losing side. But
Well, they
both
flipped.
felt
Italy. Yep.
that because of what
Before
happened after
the
the
wars.
war, that they were on the losing side, with Italy having kind of flip-flopped during World War One, and then eventually joining the Allied side because of a promise to gain new territories you saw a few frames ago, and not getting that after the war, which upset a lot of people like Mussolini, who had fought and died and felt like it was kind of for nothing. Then of course Germany has by far the biggest reason to be upset, because there's a
Apt
statement in the
analysis.
treaty that says that they have to take full blame for the war,
Apt.
as well as pay for the war, which of course they don't have the money for that after the war. And it's easy to see that they would feel victimized here, but people often forget with Italy what had happened there. So, but yep, the Germans, I think, definitely feel like this poor stick figure is right now. A lot of people say I'm a lot more
On top of that,
animated
a bad
now.
economy
I've
and
heard people
weak
say I look
governments
more
meant that when a small
confident
angry man
now.
with a silly mustache came along and said that he could fix everything, the German people loved
that's
it.
true.
Hitler had been a soldier during World War One, and he was crazy patriotic, and nobody was madder than him about Germany's humiliation.
I was very scared to do some of the videos because I have been, and still do, like, self-conscious issues and stuff like that. So like me saying what I would sound like and being overweight and that kind of stuff, it did scare me. It helped me come over that now, because now I don't care as much.
He helped start a new
I was
political
very
party,
afraid.
and in 1923 attended a march on Munich with his boys. And then he got arrested. But his popularity grew and grew, and in 1933, the president made him chancellor. He believed he was Germany's great destined savior, and he went full megalomaniac, establishing a dictatorship with himself at its center. Europe had fascist dictator number 2. Hitler and Mussolini had a lot of the same ideas, but more
Let's go and look at these real quick, because this is important to look at.
Well, you're
when you look at
covering it,
the-
Mr. Terry. We can't
two
see the left
who-
ones.
Both, as you saw, claim that they can fix the problems that are created after World War II.
Tick.
Or World War One.
Insist.
And Hitler is very influenced by Mussolini, who he tried to emulate, saw him as kind of the senior fascist.
True.
But you saw with a few seconds ago how Mussolini's takeover went pretty well, right? He had the military behind him. He had much larger support than Hitler did in the 20s. And he was influenced by that. Hitler was, and tried to do his own little military overthrow.
Right.
But the German government was having none of that. Of course, he gets thrown in jail. They didn't really talk about that.
Making pretty good
Where
points.
He also writes Mein Kampf and kind of outlines a lot of these things as you're
I'll be
seeing
saying the same
on the
stuff.
left hand of the screen here. So yeah, you can see these two guys are going to be gaining popularity with, again, similar things. Now, fascism is hard to sometimes define, and the things you're seeing right here on the screen is often what historians will say are kind of features of fascism. So that's what we kind of have to go for. But it's still a very debatable term.
Assuming
about
on the
Nazism.
left there,
It gets
but,
thrown around so much
for the
these
Nazis,
days, people
very
don't really
racist,
understand
right?
it. But,
A lot more racist than
if
the
we're looking in the
Italian
historical
fascism.
sense. We're kind of looking here on the screen. Sorry, my webcam is blocking the left side, but the left side is the same as the right side here. So anyway,
importantly, they had the same enemies, and they started
Glad
to
we
get
fixed
along.
that, right?
Anyone else want to be friends? Franco? No? You good? I do. Who's that? It's Japan, and they've taken over northern China. Let's rewind a bit.
Japan's already
Japan had isolated
starting
itself
their
from the
empire
rest of the
process.
world for over 200 years until the Americans showed up and said, you're going to trade with us and you're going to like it. Then the
Remember
Western
Matthew
powers
Perry,
imposed a bunch of
1800s?
unequal treaties, meaning Japan's economy was bust. They also had no natural resources, so they decided to go get some. They went to war with China to gain a sphere of influence over Korea, and they took a bunch of China's stuff. But then the West said, hey, cut that out. And since Japan couldn't take on the West, they said, okay, I guess we'll just go home. Wait a minute, what are you doing? Taking advantage of a weakened China and setting up spheres of influence. But I was the one who weakened them. We know. And you guys didn't let me have anything. We know. That seems unfair. We don't think so. Okay, see ya. So Japan...
Go ahead and add Japan then to the list of people that were pissed off after World War One. Japan joins on the Allied side because they're hoping to get colonial possessions, out in Asia, and had done so, but were kind of denied.
My
by the
information has been
Allies,
better
this kind of blessing to
than I
have these
thought.
or keep these colonies there. So they add that to Germany, add that to now to Italy. Japan adding the third part of that are people that are upset and kind of feel they have to take matters into their own hands if they want to be a power nation, which, of course, all three want to do.
Thought
Looks like I'm doing
this
the
and went to war
director's
with Russia
cut, or
and
like
stunned
the
everyone by
commentary.
actually winning. Then
The
they
end of a
fully
DVD.
annexed Korea, but they didn't stop there. In World War I, they took Germany's colonies and islands in Asia. And then in
Right.
an incident that was maybe staged by the Japanese army, a bomb blew up a Japanese train in Manchuria,
Manchurians.
giving them an excuse to launch an invasion and take over. So here's the situation.
blew up the
Nazi
tracks,
Germany,
yeah.
Fascist Italy, and Japan all believe they're racially superior, all feel hostility towards the Allies, and all want to militarize and take over more stuff. And so they did. Let's start with Germany. Hitler hated the Treaty of Versailles, and now he was ready to begin undoing it. In complete violation of the treaty, the first Luftwaffe squadrons were set up, conscription was introduced, and he pimped up his army. The Allies did nothing. Then Hitler sent his
He did this in secrecy.
Pimp your ride. Do you
first,
guys even know about that?
Using, to make these factories for war materials, which
Old
again
MTV show.
was illegal according to the Treaty of Versailles, or would hide them in factories and things that were disguised as like schools, for example, to keep this kind of under wraps. So he's kind of had been doing this. Then you see here the first time he really unleashes, I guess, this new military he's been building is here with the Rhineland, which was a territory here on, if you can see my mouse, kind of on the border here of Germany and France. That was a demilitarized zone that Germany was not allowed to have military in, but Hitler felt was vital to the future of Germany to have this region back. So you see it, and then, yep, they're going to talk about how the Allies kind of do nothing about it.
army back into the demilitarized Rhineland, giving orders to immediately
doing a
retreat
pretty
if the
good
Allies
job.
showed up. The Allies did nothing. With his military
With
re-strengthened, he
the
could now move on to
pauses,
step
not
2.
doing a lot of pauses.
He wanted to rapidly increase the Aryan population, and to do so, he needed
also,
Lebanon. Or in other words, he would
not
have to
letting my
take over the
stutter
world.
come out,
But
'cause
for
I have
now,
a
a
stutter.
good portion
Living
of Europe would
space.
do, and he
A bit
began
of a
eyeing up his
stutter as
neighbors.
well.
The Allies finally started to get worried, so they implemented a fairly useless diplomatic strategy called
Done better
appeasement,
than
and
I
it went a
thought.
little something like this. Hitler would say, "I want that thing," and the Allies would say, "You can't have that thing." "Okay, you can have that thing, but no more." "I want that thing." And repeat. In 1938, Hitler's army marched into Austria and just took it, with no resistance. Boom, this is Germany now. Next, he demanded to be given the Sudetenland, an area of Czechoslovakia with many ethnic Germans. The Allies held a
Slovakia?
meeting with Hitler in Munich and said, "Look, we're going to give you what... Hang on, this meeting is about my territory. Shouldn't I come to the meeting too?" "Anyway, we're going to give you what you want." "Really?" "Yeah." Just like that? Yep.
I like the Mussolini
What's the
character.
catch? Just sign this piece of paper promising you won't invade the rest of Czechoslovakia.
I will be chill. That'll
Okay.
work, right?
Then Chamberlain returned home victorious, waving his signed piece of paper in the air, declaring crisis to be averted and the continuation of world peace. And we built a statue of Chamberlain in his honor, and every day on the 30th of September we celebrate Chamberlain Day. Hitler's invading the rest of Czechoslovakia. What? He's invading the rest of Czechoslovakia. Oh,
I'm fired.
you lied to me. What do you expect? I'm Hitler. Not to be outdone, Mussolini...
Now, history has definitely put Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain in this really bad light, of course, because, of course, in hindsight, we understand that this policy of appeasement and, basically trying to make Hitler promise that, okay, you can have these areas that are majority ethnic German, but you can't go any further than that. And again, Chamberlain gets a bad rap for that. Now, understand at this time that
My
if
dog in the background.
the Allies had
You guys heard
actually
that?
militarily intervened with Germany, the public probably would not have supported it this time because, again, you got to think World War I ended less than 20 years ago, and people are not wanting to.
There was a
of course,
couch
to go
right
to
next
war.
to
People thought
me
that nobody would ever want
On
to
my
go to war.
right.
It's
sit
easy
right
again
there and be
to
very
put
loud.
Chamberlain as this like a foolish figure in history, but at the same time, he didn't think anybody necessarily would want to go to war. And again, that would have been popular opinion, but in hindsight, of course, this was a bad policy, and the Allies are going to pay for
A lot
it.
more mic feedback. I have a much better setup
here
now for my
shortly.
mic.
He also wanted to get in on the action. He
But
thought
yeah,
to himself,
my
"Isn't
dog
there
is
not
better
yet
at it
colonized
now,
nation somewhere which is
but
so
my dog
underdeveloped
did
that
not
people will be defending themselves
understand.
against our tanks with literal bows and arrows and wooden spears?"
Like,
"Oh, there is?" Fantastic.
He did not
And so he took
understand,
it.
like,
Italy
me
also
obviously
wanted to
filming a
control the
video.
entrance to the
So when I would be
Adriatic Sea, so
talking
they
and stuff,
occupied
he
Albania.
thought I was talking to
Then, in
him.
another incident which
The
was
only time he
unique
ever
staged by
hears
the
me
Japanese,
talk is
gunfire
usually
was
to
exchanged
him.
by Japanese and Chinese troops at the
Right?
Marco Polo
'Cause,
Bridge, and the Japanese launched yet
yeah, he doesn't
another
hear anybody
invasion
else.
against China. They
So,
swept
like,
through Beijing and Shanghai,
it
and then
made him
advanced through the Yangtze
weird.
Valley to China's then capital.
And there were a lot of
Nanking.
times in
It was
those
here that
old
saw the
videos
worst of
where I had to,
Japan's
like,
shocking
stop
atrocities committed against
and
the Chinese
edit
people.
or something, because he would just be
Back
like
in Europe, Germany and
getting in
The
my
rape of
face. Nanking, as it's called now, is something that I think in the West would have been, or would be today, way more popularized if not for the Holocaust, right? And unfortunately, I think it's got swept under the rug, especially by Western culture.
Very
But
true.
don't tell that to the Chinese, because
I've tried to make it a
it was
point
a
to
very awful time
talk
period
about it
for the
more
Chinese.
in my classes.
Italy made their relationship status official by signing the Pact of Steel. Then, Hitler turned his eyes towards Poland and the hated Polish corridor, splitting Germany in two. At this point, the Allies really had to put their foot down.
Now that little
and they
part's
warned
part
him
of
that
Russia.
The invasion of Poland would mean war.
Kaliningrad.
Hitler had planned to continue his advance eastward, but he didn't want to end up fighting a war on two fronts. So for now, he made an alliance with Stalin, saying, "How about we both invade Poland and split it between the two of us, and I definitely won't not refrain from not betraying you sometime in the future." Sounds good. This new alliance stunned the West. On the 1st of
To
September,
my face.
Some historical context that's very interesting.
I can make a big frown face.
Poland,
there.
as you see right here, did not exist until after World War One. At least not in the sense that it
Oh,
does
man.
now. It used to
Polish
be part
people came
German
at me hard for
territory
this.
and part Russian territory, right? And after World War One, these areas were granted self-determination, or the ability to basically create their own nations. So this was an easy, I think, bargaining piece here that Hitler was able to make with Stalin there, in that, hey, we both have something that historically has been ours. Would be very hard to convince Stalin to do this sort of thing. And of course, Hitler would love this too, because if there is going to be a war, having to fight two fronts was something that he knows as a former World War One soldier, that was very difficult, especially early on in World War One, having to fight two fronts. So if there is going to be a war, not having to fight Russia in the east would be
I'm looking
very,
at the camera
very
first
helpful
time.
thing. So kind of everyone wins with this situation. You're talking about Germany and Russia, but unfortunately, Poland itself is going to see itself.
People also made
invaded,
fun of me because I didn't know
invaded
you could
by
push
two
spacebar.
countries. So that is how this whole thing is going to start here, as far as the military intervention.
People don't know I
September
didn't know I could
1939,
push
German
spacebar
troops
and like
entered
had the
Poland, and
cursor
Britain and
over.
France
There were
declared
comments
war
in there
on
about that.
Germany.
He's a teacher because of that.
The Poles fought
But yeah,
hard
people were
on
hating on the
Germany
Poland
until
thing because I
two
said it didn't
giants crashing down
exist,
on
and I
them
meant
from
in like
either
this
side.
fashion,
Then came a
like
period
it was an
known as the
independent
Phony War,
state.
where everyone just sort of sat around not doing
Because I
much.
was drawn up
The
after the
French
war.
had launched
World
a
War
small
One.
invasion into the Saarland,
Used to be
to
part
maintain
Germany,
mostly
part
defensive
Russia.
positions, and after a while decided to just turn around and call it a day. Speaking of France, the French were still super proud of their victory in World War One, and they hadn't really moved on from it. They still used horses, they dispatched messages by motorbike instead of using radio. Orders from the commander
I'm nodding
were
at the same
usually pretty
parts.
vague, and the
Me
troops
now
were
and then,
rarely
and me
inspected.
then.
They built a line of defenses along their German border, but didn't bother extending it all the way to the Channel, and they wouldn't launch artillery strikes against Germany out of fear of being retaliated against.
I had no
Imagine
lighting
a line
set up
right
back
here.
then too.
France, of
Just
course,
some
gets
lamp.
a bad rap as well in this war, because
Different webcam too.
they were technologically inferior when it came to the military to Germany, who had been advancing their military, right? In World War One, you get the introduction of tanks and machine guns and airplanes, which were, again, all in their kind of infancy, especially tanks and airplanes. And throughout this interwar period, these couple decades, Germany had been advancing that technology, the tank and air war technology, way faster than anybody else. And when this war breaks out, France is still in basically World War One mode, which doesn't work in the modern war era that Germany has now brought in. So you see with them, they invest for their kind of post World War One, response to World War or to the war. They invest in a defense system. Now the Maginot Line
It took a long time
is
to
one
say
of the
something
greatest
I could have
defense structures ever built.
done a lot
I mean, it's
quicker.
really a marvel. However, like you see here, you see how the Maginot Line, which again is it's defensive fortifications. Look into it more if you want to learn more. It really is fascinating. But you can see the defense only goes across the French.
It's not a
and,
fence.
German border. Now, of course, what we
Why
know
I
in
said
World
that.
War
It's not
I
a fence.
is that Germany avoided this border anyways by going
not a
through Belgium,
wall.
which is easier to travel than the more forested mountainous areas right here. But again, the Maginot Line did not extend all the way up north. Now, I believe they had plans to possibly extend that down the road, but they felt, the German-French border would be far more important than building, the most fortified defensive structure ever along a
Even though
border
Germany
of a
invaded
nation
through
we're
Belgium in
friendly
World War
with,
One.
Belgium, which, I don't know, maybe give some bad vibes off if you're doing that sort of thing against
said vibes.
with a border with an ally. But nevertheless, this is not going to really do much in the end.
The way to the Channel, and they wouldn't launch artillery strikes against Germany out of fear of being retaliated against. In a war, they didn't want to attack the enemy, and at first the UK wasn't much better. Chamberlain still naively hoped that the war could be ended diplomatically. Instead of bombing raids, the RAF dropped propaganda leaflets over German cities, which one air marshal said likely did nothing but provide the continent with toilet paper for the duration of the war. They also only sent 200,000 men to France, while the French had mobilized millions. Both Britain and France wanted to avoid a
Yeah,
repeat
my
of the First
technology
World War,
game
and so they
is
wanted to keep the war
set
as
up a
far
lot
from home
more.
as
I have a better
possible.
camera.
So they
That was a
turned their eyes
720p
north
camera I was
towards Norway.
using. I had no
Neutral Sweden
lighting
was supporting
system.
iron
Now I
ore
have
to
studio
Germany through
lights.
neutral
And
Norway. So the
does
Allies
that, what I
asked
learned
Britain
a
to please
lot
stop
too.
exporting iron ore to Germany, but this request was refused. Then the Soviet Union.
Maybe I should pause if I'm talking. I don't know how it sounds on your end. But was, and people ask me about, sometimes about how to, do videos and stuff. But lighting is just as important as your camera because it like when I had it really dark there and very uneven light, and a camera gets very confused by that. Now I have these studio lights, and it makes the resolution look bigger. I do have a better camera now. Mine now is a 1080, does 1080, and this one did 720. But I remember getting better lights, even with that old camera, really helped. And then I bought this camera eventually, and I was like, all right, should I get I get even better camera? And then people, when I was looking, said, hey, before you spend like thousands on a new camera or something, try lights first, because lighting is actually pretty cheap. And it did that, and now combining with my 1080, and I feel like this is perfectly fine now. So anyway, I've changed and learned a lot about like the technical aspects of making videos, even though it's just me sitting in front of my computer. Money
attacked
prevails,
Finland.
right?
So the Allies said, how about we land troops in Norway and move them across Sweden to go help out your good pal Finland, and along the way maybe take control of all your airfields. But Norway and Sweden still said no. So the UK mined the waters around
Iron.
Norway to force any transport ships into international waters, and they also attacked a German tanker they found in the area. Hitler realized what the Allies were up to, and he quickly moved to secure his supply of iron ore. He launched an invasion through Denmark into Norway. The Allies rushed to land troops at key ports along the coast, but Germany had taken control of Norway's airfield, and their air superiority decided the fight. The Allies had to retreat. After this slightly embarrassing failure, Chamberlain resigned and was replaced with Winston Churchill, who had a slightly different approach to dealing with the Germans. Hitler's overall strategy was similar to Germany.
Yeah, Winston Churchill
What did I
has
say
been
about
one of the very few voices in Europe here on the Allied side that wanted to take a much stronger stance to Hitler early on and opposed appeasement and from the get-go. Because he thought you can't appease someone like Hitler if you're giving your whole hand away, and you'll never be able to appease Hitler. Someone like that, once you give them something, they're going to want more and more. So this made, of course, Churchill look like a warmonger, and was dismissed. Now that appeasement has failed, all of a sudden people are going, hey, that Churchill guy, I think he was right. You know what I mean? So he's going to now be in charge. But his worry, of course, is it too late to do anything here? So let's continue. Pretty good.
Germany's First World War strategy.
I would have said it
Attack
very
France,
similar.
defeat France, knocking out the UK in the process, then turn on the Soviet Union and win the war. During the Phoney War, the Allies had given Hitler time to prepare his forces. Now, he was ready to attack. The Allies had wanted to place troops in Belgium, but Belgium had refused, and in a move that surprised pretty much no one, Hitler launched an invasion to get around France's defenses. The Allies charged into Belgium at full speed to meet the German invasion head-on, and it looked like a repeat of the First World War was coming.
Just
But
like
this time,
First World
Hitler had
War.
a trick up his sleeve. Blitzkrieg. As the Germans advanced, they sent thousands of refugees westward, slowing down the Allies. Then, to the south, the French had left the Ardennes, an area full of hills and forests, pretty underdefended, because they thought it was naturally impenetrable.
bump.
Well, the Germans
I have a suspension thing now. Where do I need to get it to? You can't see. Where it helps with the vibrations on the arm. That's helped a lot since then. But I used to bang that thing all the time. And people would say, like, if they were in headphones, it was like this really loud thing. And people told me that. So I think this thing has helped a little bit with some of the dings for still a pretty cheap setup.
Germans were about to penetrate it with everything they had. They smashed 50 Wehrmacht divisions through and encircled the Allied armies at lightning speed. The best of the Allied forces were now trapped. The Germans squeezed in from all sides, taking out France's best armies and nearly wiping out the British too. But they managed to make a desperate last-minute escape at Dunkirk with British.
I know. In a lot of ways, I'm more cringy now because now that I'm way more comfortable on camera, I'll do like my stupid little voices and like act out stuff. And back then I was like, there was no humor involved. Not necessarily I'm super humorous now, but like I didn't do that at all. It was just like, hey, I'm just watching and waiting to be able to stop for things I know about.
Civilian ships even making the perilous journey to bring their young men home. With most of the French forces depleted, the Germans breezed through, taking Paris, and France fell. What the Germans couldn't do in World War I, Hitler had done just like that.
Yep. Really, when it comes down to invading France and basically Western Europe in general, Paris, mainland Western Europe it's Paris. Everything is Paris. If Europe, has a center, a power center as a continent, angering everyone in Paris is kind of it, especially with France. I mean, if you take Paris, most important city in Europe, right? And that's what in World War I the Germans were trying to
still
do.
Kind of stick by that,
but I know that pissed off a lot of people. Try to get Paris and to get very close, but never do. But now it has happened here within a matter of weeks, and without Paris, France is basically gone. So at this point, very early in the war, which is still early in the war, they have made more progress, Germany has, than by far all of World War I on the Western Front. So
it was what Germany tried to do in the First
World War. It's not going to be a repeat of World War I. What Germany tried to do too, invade through Belgium and get Paris from the north.
Hitler hoped that with the fall of France, the UK would also lose hope and sue for peace. But quite annoyingly, it didn't, and he needed to secure the Western Front, so he tried to force them into submission with mind games. The UK were now all alone, and Hitler wanted to emphasize that. First of all, just before France fell, Italy finally declared war on the Allies, making the UK's situation even worse. Next, instead of just occupying all of France, Hitler occupied the coastal areas for defense, but allowed France to continue its existence as a German puppet state. This way, it looked like the UK's old ally had decided to switch sides. Hitler also hoped that the UK wouldn't attack any of her old allies' navy bases or colonies in Africa, giving Hitler an extra line of defense to the south. But the UK made sure to respond to this by sailing down
they didn't talk much at all about Africa
and wrecking a bunch of ships.
in
So
this
have at it.
video.
Hitler then began laying down plans for an invasion of Great Britain. Before German troops could land on British soil, he would
Operation
first need
Sea
air and
Lion.
naval superiority across the Channel. Waves of German bombers came, while the completely outnumbered RAF worked bravely around the clock in an attempt to quell the German attacks. At first, the Luftwaffe targeted British ports and coastal facilities. Then it attacked RAF bases, crippling the RAF's ability to defend
That's
the
how
nation.
Blitzkrieg-
And it looked like
Blitzkrieg
Hitler's great
worked
British
in
invasion
that
was
order.
coming. But then, Churchill
targets.
ordered a small, pretty insignificant bombing raid over Berlin. It didn't do much damage, but Hitler was furious, and he immediately ordered the Luftwaffe to refocus its attacks on
Why are you
civilian
mad?
targets
Look
in
what you're
London.
doing,
Children were
Hitler.
sent off to the countryside, away from their parents to avoid danger, and frequent trips to air raid shelters became a daily occurrence. But British morale held firm. Smiling, knitting, lounging casually, these people have balls of steel. This refocusing on London also gave the RAF
Stay calm and
breathing space
carry
to
on.
reorganize, so Hitler kind of shot himself in the foot there.
Doink.
Just the foot for now. Finally, the Luftwaffe sent one
Foreshadowing.
massive all-out attack on London, and the RAF successfully repelled it, destroying many of the German aircraft and placing air superiority firmly in British hands. Hitler's invasion had to be postponed, but the bombing of British cities continued for some time.
Yeah, the Blitz, as it's called here, bombing of London and other areas, was a major, major test for the British because
I see.
the Germans are launching Blitzkrieg, right? Now, Blitzkrieg is in basically three waves.
Yep, 3.
The first thing, of course, is the
one.
air war.
Yep, one war,
It's
yep.
you bomb round the clock on military sites, as primarily, and
Depots.
You can go on civilian sites
Factories
like
and
you can do
stuff.
here, and you have to soften up the land, I guess, in a way that eventually you can safely land or invade with on land.
That's number 2.
Now,
That's
the
number 2.
next phase after you
number 2.
conduct the
Number 2.
with the Luftwaffe, the air raids,
2.
is to, of course, land your mechanized warfare, right?
Yep,
Your
yep,
tanks and
tanks,
stuff
tanks.
like that. Now, this is, of course, a big
Tanks.
challenge with Britain because it's an island, right?
Yep.
Where it
Island.
worked basically seamlessly in France and in Poland. This is different. This raid has to be successful. Otherwise, you can't get to the third and final phase, which is against to put troops eventually on ground. So they have to withstand this. If they can withstand the bombing, then really the Germans will not be able to progress with an actual invasion. So they had to, stand firm here. Otherwise,
I think I'm articulating it okay.
England could go the way of France if they don't.
I'm actually using, by the way, the same mic I've always used.
Okay.
Oh, that was it. All right, let's hear my outro.
Now, I want to make sure.
By the way, I didn't do any in these. It was a long time before I ever edited a video. It wasn't until I got my intro, my 10-second intro video with the photos and stuff. So there's a lot of videos I didn't edit. I didn't even know how to edit. Everything was done in one big take. So there was, no editing at all. And I still do fairly minor editing. Credit gets, to the Oversimplified. This is when I go to my big screen now. This channel, this is the first time I've seen this video, but I know this channel is very popular, and I really like what they did there. It's always great to, add the humor and the visuals, and the animations are great. So I think this is a great way to introduce yourself, into a topic here. So, but I want to make sure that you go to their video and like and subscribe there.
Mr. Terry's calling
much more important that you do that than
content
for
creator.
me. I didn't make this content. I'm just reacting to it and talking about it. So we got to make sure to give credit where it's due. So if you only want to do one like today, do it to the Oversimplified.
Aww.
Okay. All right. Well, pretty soon here we'll do part 2, and we'll look at that. Now, if you have any other history related videos that you would like me to check out, be sure to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to get to it. And
now they get lost.
We'll go ahead and we'll see you next time.
Put them on Discord. All right, so yeah, that was kind of fun. I don't think, fully seen that video. I think even when I posted, I didn't watch the whole thing. I was just like, I think that went okay. I guess I'll post it. So it's been 2 years since I did that. I mean, not a lot's changed, really. I mean, I know I act maybe a little bit differently on camera and stuff like that, and I think things overall have improved. But I've never been as popular as I was with that stuff. I mean, I think that is still... I'm going to double check right here. I think that still might be my most popular video. No, it's not. My most popular video, which almost has 1 million more, 3.2 million, is Epic Rap Battles of History, Part 1. That's crazy. Anyway, that's still a lot, though. I mean, that's still a lot. All right, well, again, fun to kind of go back and see how things have progressed. Again, when I started that, it was amazing to me how that video became popular pretty quick, even though it was my first video. And I don't exactly know how the YouTube algorithm did that, but I mean, I remember I made that and like waking up like the next day and there's like 1,000 views. And I'm like it blew me away. I was like, what? Like how? I don't know how. Like, I don't advertise my channel. I don't do any of that. So something just clicked, apparently, with the algorithm where people saw that video and then it popped me up in their recommended feeds. And that's really cool. And the algorithm changes a lot. Like, I don't get recommended nearly as much as I used to. And you can see, like, other channels do the same thing. You hit these algorithm spikes and then the algorithm kind of moves on. It kind of moves on to other people, especially if you're doing like other types of content. So that happens a lot, I think, with reactors where, they got in because they were connected to something very popular and that lasts for a while and then it will kind of go away. You know what I mean? And that's kind of happened for me. The growth, of course, has been a lot slower since then, but it's amazing that it's happened. As of right now, making this video, I have 288,000 subscribers, which is crazy. To think about when I was just doing this sort of thing. And I know a lot of other people now are doing similar things, especially in the history community now. Other people that have ties to history, whether they're history students or, whatever, have been doing that kind of stuff. And I feel a lot of that spawned, started to spawn after they were probably recommended mine. Because I was watching... my whole thing, my whole rabbit hole or whatever down to this, eventually creating like a reaction videos went from watching some of my favorite YouTube videos, specifically how the rabbit hole really kind of was created was with Bill Wurtz's History of the World. And watching that, I watched it so many times, and I'd play it in class and stuff. That actually, at first it was. No, I should say it started with History of Japan, really, but it was the reactions to those videos that I saw people doing that, and then I was like, oh, okay, cool. That would be cool too. Specifically, Devon Da Vinci, one of my favorite reactors, very thoughtful, intelligent reactor. I saw him do it to History of the World, and I remember him very specifically saying, I wonder what like a history teacher would think of this. And that clicked with me. I was like, hey, I could do that. I kind of like these reaction videos. It'd be easy. So it wasn't long after that, I was making a channel to put my videos on, my lectures that you may have seen before. You may have seen on here. And I was like, it wasn't very long after that at all. Within a day or two, I was like, I'll try it. So hooked up a camera and all that, and then did the video, and then kind of the rest has been history. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, for you, whether you've been here one day or you've been here for 2 years. Thanks for being a part of it. The community is a lot of fun out here. I feel we have a great space for, history nerds like myself and the casual history fan alike to be able to have fun. And whatever you're into, I hope you continue to follow the channel. I hope, again, to one of the points of my channel is to expose people to more channels as well. A lot of people, it seems, that are into history are only sticking to a handful of channels, and the plethora of amazing content is really underappreciated in here. So I hope in a way I can kind of bridge that, where a lot of you know are kind of mainstream and have come from Oversimplified or Epic Rap Battles, or if you're still even watching me, because we are 40 minutes or whatever into this video here, that you will continue to check out the other channels, and hopefully I can be a guide for that, and that will be very fulfilling for me to be able to do such a thing. So again, thank you for two more years. I hope we can keep doing this strong, and thanks for being patient with me as I continue to learn how to do this and hopefully become a better whatever, YouTuber, whatever you want to call it. Thanks for being here with me. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, if you want to watch the original video of the... Okay, we're getting too deep now. The video you're watching, the original reaction videos there, follow that. I know you all watched Oversimplified World War II. Make sure you're following them. Amazing people over there. And with that, all that stuff's down there. Okay. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.